Recently got some things donated. Thanks to Glenn K for sending this over. Let's check out and see what's in the box. And here it is, a Profile California 1000 watt amp. Now you guys may have remembered I've tested some Profile California amps in the past, including this 1200 SX. Did this video a few years ago. If you want to check a link in the video description, I'll link over to that video so you can rewatch it or watch it for the first time if you've never seen it before. That blue amp was from around 1999, but if we move up to the year 2005 and look at this Profile car audio catalog, we will see the California series amplifiers. There's several different models, actually 9 different models of the California series, and 2 of them were 4 channels, the AP1040 and the AP1040. Now let's take a look at the Car Audio and Electronics Buyer's Guide from the year 2005. Here we see under Profile Consumer Electronics the AP1040, $159 back in the day. But we also have a Crutchfield catalog from winter spring of 2005, so we can see what these things actually sold for, because those buyer's guides gave MSRP, and here at Crutchfield we can see what they actually sold for, and $149.99 for the AP1040, 80 watts by 4 or 225 by 2. Now when Glenn contacted me about this amp, he said it was literally brand new without being in the original box, and the condition agreed with that. This thing looks amazing. Looks like it literally just came out of the box, which I guess it did. Here on one end of the amp, you can see how polished this chrome is. I didn't touch it, but check out all these options. We have line in for channels 1 through 4 via standard RCAs, no Tiffany's here. Also, we have the gain controls. Channels 1 and 2 have a variable treble boost, 0 to 12 dB at 8 kilohertz. Also, channels 3 and 4 have a bass boost, 0 to 12 dB at 45 hertz. You also have the option for low pass or high pass crossovers for all 4 channels, or you can set them to full range if you would prefer to go with no crossover. And on the far right of the amp, we have RCA outputs. You can send full range signal to another amp. That way you can keep the signal flowing. On the opposite side of the amp, we have power and protection LEDs. We have ground, remote, and B+ inputs, as well as 2 30 amp fuses. On the right side, we have speaker outputs for all 4 channels. It's really nice the way they have silk screen there on the side so you can see how the amp is bridged as well. That's always very helpful in case you misplace the manual or can't find it. Luckily, this manual is available online. Now, as far as dimensions go, 13 inches long by 10.2 inches wide by 2 inches tall. Millimeter equivalents are there as well. This amp seems to accept around 6 gauge power and ground. We use 8 gauge. You can see the green LED on the end. And on the top, it is a red LED power strip, which gives you visual representation the amp is on. As for ratings, 4 ohms rated 80 watts by 4, 2 ohms 125 by 4, 4 ohms bridge 225 by 2. Now let's try the amp in the 4-channel mode first. All channels hooked up, 2 of them to the dyno, the other 2 are going to external resistors. Rated 80 watts by 4 at 14.4. Let's see if we get 1 kilohertz. Certified test takes us up to 1% distortion. And yeah, we're a little shy, about 20 watts shy. We get about 60 watts per channel right at 14 volts. What about dynamically? Can we get closer to that 80 watts? Not really. Still around 65 watts times 4, 14.22. So let's try the 2 ohm 4-channel test. Now it's rated 125 watts by 4. Based on what we saw before, if it don't do the 4 ohm test, I doubt it's going to do the 2 ohm one. And yeah, 30 watts or so shy. 89 times 4 at 2 ohms. Dynamically, we get a little bit over 100 watts, but we're still 20% away or so away from the 125 by 4 with about 105 watts per channel average. Now we'll bridge the amp down to 2 channels using the left positive, right negative of each channel pair. 8 ohms first, 2 channels, rated 160 watts by 2. Based on the 4-channel not doing 80 watts by 4, I doubt we're going to get 160 by 2 here. But let's see what we get. We get about 120 watts average times 2 at 14.11. Again, somewhere between 15 and 20% shy of the rating. Dynamic power, about 132 watts or so average into both channels at 14.27. Now let's try the 4 ohm bridge. It's rated 225 by 2 at 14.4 volts. Certified test first using the 1 kilohertz track. And yep, about 40 watts shy, about 175 watts times 2 when they say 225 by 2 RMS. So they did overrate this amp a little bit. Even dynamically, we can't quite get that 225 by 2. We get about 211 watts per channel. Now here are all the results, and this is very similar to the previous profile amp I tested. They were slightly overrated. Not really sure why they did this, because honestly, they're pretty good value for the money even back then. But yeah, they kind of overrated them a little bit. And you can see the efficiency there as well. Not too good, but it is a Class AB amp. Now let's hook it up to the ELAC bookshelf speakers and see how it sounds with some sound quality music. Overall, the amp sounded great with the ELAC bookshelf speakers, no complaints whatsoever. Now let's flip the amp over on the bottom here so we can take the bottom panel off and see what's inside. Made in China. This is not a Korean amp, unfortunately, from back then. This is made in a 2004, sold as a 2005 model. Take off the 6 screws on the bottom, and here we go. Single-sided circuit board, and you see the daughter board there on the end. You see some capacitors, transformer. We have 35 volt, 4700 microfarad Samhas here on the rails, and for the power supply section, 25 volt, 2200 microfarad. Those are 105 degrees Celsius caps. And we have Sanken C4467 and A1694 BJTs there for the outputs. And then we have the RFZ48Vs. These are N-channel MOSFETs here on the power supply side. Overall, this amp is extremely clean. Internals look really nice and shiny. The outside of this amp looks really nice and shiny. It's amazing that it's almost 20 years old and looks this good. It was not recapped before I did this test, so that is something to know. But again, I've done profile tests before, and they just do come up a little bit shy of their rated power, unfortunately. But if you were a budget guy back in the day, this is all you could afford. This is not a bad amp. So I hope you guys enjoyed the test. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the thumbs up. Till next time, Big D, I'm out of here. Profile 1000 watt. Let's try 2 ohms dynamic burst at 1 kilohertz. It's not rated for loads quite this low. Dynamic burst should be fine. $273 and $271 at 14 volts.